Good morning. Welcome to next installment of How to Study Scriptural Context. I'm on a little vacation right now, but I'm still going to be recording videos. You can probably hear all the wildlife in the background. I heard a flock of, really? I heard a bunch of deer going across my property a little while ago. They sounded like elephants going by. Anyway, the purpose of this one is to save you money and to kind of guide you in a more profitable direction as far as study goes. I'm going to take as an example some books that I was told to buy as part of a discipleship class, and this was even a discipleship class for a Hebrew Roots ministry, but it's a Hebrew Roots ministry that didn't teach context. And so if you're serious about evaluating teachings, and if you're serious about study, there are some things that I don't even want you to spend your money on. But I'll show you some other things that are worth your time and are worth your money. All right, so you're going to either love me for this one or hate me for this one. But, you know, I would rather have you throw the money away. Well, not throw it away. The money that I threw away on these books, I would have rather have given to widows and orphans, let me tell you. So, let's start out with the big one. And this one, either you're going to turn off the video right now, or you're going to keep listening. And no one should buy this one anyway, because it's all over the internet. Dun, 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 dun. Strong's Concordance of the Bible, or, as I call it, Strong's Book of Renaissance-era Opinions about what words meant. I know that people think that this defines words, but it doesn't. It doesn't define anything. Strong's will only give you, Strong's is useful for one thing. It will tell you every time a word appears, but it won't tell you what the word means. It will tell you what the King James Version interpreters, what their opinions of what words to put in the places. Sometimes those opinions were guided by their cultural paradigms, sometimes by religious agendas that they were brought up with. The people in the Renaissance and Middle Ages didn't have any way to study biblical context. And so the words that they use are often just dead wrong. I once saw two entirely different Greek words translated as divorce in the same sentence by the King James Version. And they mean entirely different things. But, excuse me, if you're wanting to promote a certain agenda, that's sometimes what they did. So anyway, maybe they didn't know the difference between divorce and being put away. I'm guessing not, and I don't even know if they cared. But it doesn't matter. Now, one of the problems with Strong's is, yeah, it'll give you, excuse me, allergies are terrible around here. It will give you, excuse me, it will give you a basic word. It won't tell you the tense. It won't tell you if it was plural or singular. It won't tell you anything. It won't tell you the add-ons that are put, it won't tell you the prefixes or the suffixes. All it'll tell you is the root word. It's like saying that this word means appear. Well, what happens when you put dis in front of it? It becomes disappear. So, you know, we got to be, this just isn't worth your while to invest in, either financially or emotionally, because some people are really emotionally invested in Strong's, thinking that it is a dictionary, when it's not. It won't tell you it won't give you a meaning for even a single word. Not really. It just gives you a bunch of words. So, anyway, so if you're still around. So that was the first book that I was told to buy for this. The second book, oh, this is a tribe. Not true. Now, especially for a context studies, Haley's Bible Handbook. I looked at a few pages I found mistakes on every single page. Now, this guy's not around with us anymore, so I'm not hurting his feelings, okay? It was written first in 1929, and then it was updated until 1956. But it's stunning how much of the archaeological stuff of the times is not included in here. I just, you know, the Nile was a god. No, the Nile wasn't a god. I've been spending, you know, time and money I've been spending time and money studying Egyptian worship. They didn't see the Nile as deified. They saw the Nile as possessed of a spirit. You know, it may be small, but it's important. Oh, and then their Religion of Egypt section, where it talks about the different Egyptian gods and who they were, and oh my gosh. Yeah, no. Too many things wrong. I'm not just... Some things were amusing, however. And I'm not saying everything was wrong, but for a Bible handbook that, you know, is supposed to be talking about archaeology, it was updated in 56, and when it talks about the Ten Commandments, it doesn't even talk about the scissor and vassal trees, which were all the rage in biblical scholarship during those times. Even in 1929, when he wrote the first copy, this stuff was starting to come out, and it was all over the biblical archaeology journals. I mean, it was very popular. Really, what this book is, I found, is a very shallow attempt to get you to believe along a certain trail, and if you read this, you will never be able to challenge any teachings you're hearing, because you will have been fed information that's just about useless, and in some cases very agendaized to get you to believe along certain Christian denominational beliefs. So there's that one. Don't spend your money on it. Okay. Vine's complete expository dictionary, Old and New Testament. I marked a few pages. You know, these people who write these things, and I've also got the new one, the Wrens, and you know, they get some things right, but what they'll just talk about the Bible. That's all they talk about. They won't talk about how the word was used culturally during the times, what it meant to the people. I found a lot of problems in their discussions of Brit, covenant, big problems with clean and unclean, defilement, and kavod. Let's see. Wrens here, the new and updated replacement to the classic Vines, which is in my lap. I found a lot of problems with this one. It, again, no context whatsoever when it's talking about just words. They're all interpreted in such a way as to not take archaeology and what we know now into account. And I thought I had it here. Oh, this is the one that talked about the Shekinah glory cloud. No. The Shekinah was, you know, was something, but this whole idea of a Shekinah glory cloud, or Shekinah glory, that is a Christian expression. You know, that's not something that, I mean, we see it talks about the Shekinah, and we see that it talks about the cloud. But it's just an example of where when someone's not doing serious scholarship, but making an expository dictionary that only uses the Bible, it means that you're you're not going to take into account what things meant in the culture. That's always a problem. This one here, I specifically looked up the words for common, and Wrens had this problem too. They did not know the difference in first century times between common and unclean. They made them sound equivalent. That's a big problem because they were not equivalent. So that's the kind of thing. These are the kind of books that pastors have their congregants study, not to get them informed, to kind of keep them under wraps. And I'm not saying they're doing it on purpose, but these books aren't going to teach you anything that's going to challenge them in any way. This one. I was told to buy this one. Nelson's complete book, Bible maps and charts. Now, I was excited to buy this one because I thought it would have a bunch of Bible maps and detailed charts, but really it's a very, I don't know, there are books that I could have bought that would have given me a lot more and a lot less of the putting Jesus into everything, because really this is more of a book that's kind of sermonizing, especially a lot of the Old Testament, and I really thought it was going to be Bible maps and charts. I mean, that's what it says, Bible maps and charts, but really a lot of what it is charts telling us what to believe about the certain prophets saying, and it's all produced at a very, very it's not going to challenge anyone's paradigms. Anyway, and when you're studying biblical context, we need to get something that's beyond just what they're teaching, what you can get in any commentary book. So, I've told you the books that I wish I'd never bought. And I mean, you know, a lot of this stuff can just be picked up on the internet. And you don't even have to have the books. But if you want to study context, if you want to start understanding the mindset of the ancient Israelites from their, you know, from the nations around them and from their own, I call them extracurricular writings, you know, Josephus and Philo and all that, there are some really, really excellent books. And, you know, a lot of them were written even before those books. There's a series of books that all the people I study with, we've all read, by H. Clay Trumbull. And these they can be a little bit tedious, especially the Blood Covenant, when you're talking about Stanley going to cut himself and make blood brothers one more time. I thought I'd go postal. But these books were written in the 19th century, okay? I mean, this guy was a tireless researcher. You know, he first wrote these books in the 1880s and 1890s. This one is looking at blood covenant rites all over the world, and especially in the ancient Near East. But he covers it worldwide, and it really, boy, if you want to understand, if you want to start understanding, because this is just very basic, and he didn't have access to an awful lot of the stuff we have now, but this is a good book to start with the blood covenant. Kind of explain to you what they're thinking of when they're making blood covenants. Threshold covenant, also very important, especially for, bookmark. Also, especially for understanding things like the Passover, and also things like why the thief doesn't come through the front door, but only through the window. Important. So, threshold covenant. And he also wrote the salt covenant. Again, these were all written by a Christian Protestant scholar in the 19th century, but they're still excellent. Highly recommend picking them up, and they're not very pricey. Now, I also want to talk to you about, okay, if we can't use Strong's and Vine's as really, really good sources, what do we use? Well, this is where the difficult thing comes in, and I suffer from this because I am terrible with languages. I have tried. You know, I studied French when I was a child living in Canada, and I struggled with it. And in college, I took German, and I just struggled with it. And now I combine them, so, you know, I speak both at the same time very badly. And I have, you know, I have tried very hard to learn Hebrew, and it's just, it's like chewing on nails. We all have our gifts, but I have some friends who are really good linguists, and so I have them to talk to. But if you're not going to learn the language, you're always going to be at the mercy of whoever is telling you something means something. Unfortunately, like I said, I have people I trust whom I know will be pretty objective. So apart from actually learning the language, and not only learning the language, but learning what the words meant in time, the best thing you can get, which I am trying to save up money for, I need to, is something called Logos software. And Logos is the best there is. And if you're really going to do serious study, if you are not going to learn the languages, but you want to tell people what things mean and have any sort of authoritative anything on that, Logos is the way to go. Otherwise, you're left guessing and oftentimes misrepresenting credentials. So you got to be careful. When you tell someone means something, you know, you really have to be telling the truth. That's why we get in trouble on Facebook, and I see these memes saying that, you know, Jesus is Jesus, but, you know, that's impossible if you knew the etymology or the evolution of the word Zeus, which is, you know, it's a modern translation, and that's not how the Greeks pronounced it, and, you know, that's, so I'm not going to go into that because that's diverting. It's all very easily disproven, and it has been a million times, but people who don't know languages are always at the mercy of people who do and may lie, or people who don't and lie and say they do. There are a lot of people out there who want to gather an audience, and they will not be honest with you about what they do and do not know. Anyway, so the H. Clay Trumbull books are great starting places for studying biblical context. But now I'm going to go to an author that we also all love, and he's very readable. His name's John Walton. This is the first book that a lot of context students start out with. Ancient Near Eastern Thought and the Old Testament by John H. Walton. I love John Walton. He's very diligent. Doesn't mean I always agree with him. Is it required? But his research is good. The only thing that I can fault him with is sometimes I come to different conclusions, but it may be because I'm wrong. Again, just because we disagree with somebody doesn't mean that they're wrong. Sometimes it means we're wrong. And he does know more than I do, so I might be wrong. Anyway, he is a PhD from Hebrew Union. He got his PhD from Hebrew Union College, and he's a professor of Old Testament at Wheaton College. And he's written many books on how the ancient Israelites thought. I learned so much from him. This book isn't a be-all, end-all. This book will not make you an expert. This book will give you ideas about furthering study. And he has great references, and he will tell you, as he's going through, you'll be able to see who the legitimate scholars are in the field. And if you go and read their articles or their books, and you see who they reference, that's how you find out who the good resources are, by starting with a good resource and then seeing who they cite. and then go into those resources. And after a while, you're going to start recognizing the names of the people who really know their stuff. Okay, another book by John Walton and also some other guys. This is very popular. The IVP, Bible Background Commentary of the Old Testament. I also have the one for the New Testament. And whenever people call me saying, I know my husband would really love studying this stuff, but he doesn't really know what he's studying, or I've also had it the other way where it's my wife's birthday's coming up, and I really, you know, she enjoys all this context stuff. What should I buy her? I always say, well, she doesn't know what she wants to study, or if he doesn't want to know what he wants to study, buy one of these. They're really decently priced, and they take you through verse by verse, and these are written by people who really, really pore over the research being done in the archaeological evidence that's been just exploding over the past 150 years. So, you know, this is an area where we have to be very, very cognizant. We have to be mindful of what we do know and what we don't know. If we want to become an expert in something, it isn't enough to read just any book by any theorist. You have to go to the experts, and somebody made the comment to me the other day, well, we have to be careful about the experts because that's how we've gotten in trouble in the past. And it's like, the problem was we weren't going to the experts. We only thought we were going to the experts. When you're talking about biblical and historical context, there's no way around going to the people who have their hands in the dirt, who are translating cuneiform tablets, who work in museums, who are actually handling the archaeological record, and who are subject to peer review. Because these guys are brutal with each other if they get something wrong. Oh my gosh, they're just worse than Facebook, you know, and you don't just put things out and get away with it and have nobody call you on it if they disagree, or if you've misrepresented the information, unlike 150 years ago where, you know, somebody could put out a scandalously falsified pseudo-archaeological book, and even if people did call them on it, you'd never know it unless you were reading the right journals. So books back then could be debunked. No one would know about it. Books now can be debunked and people know. Problem is, most of the theoretical books out there are being written by people who no serious scholar would ever waste their time reading. And I get people wanting me to read this book or that book, and I'm going, well, I just, you know, I don't have the money to waste. I don't have the time to waste. And a lot of times I'll go into, they'll have like a free section, and I'll look and I'll see who their references are. I say, oh, no, I'm not reading that. So there's only one way to study and teach biblical context, and that is by going to the people with the knowledge. And we have to humble ourselves to learn. You know, I'll be honest. A lot of these guys that I read, I don't like them. I don't like the fact that they use big words, even though I understand the big words. It doesn't matter, although sometimes I got to look them up. I had to look up one last week. I don't like people who write down to other people in such a way that they make you feel dumb for not understanding. I don't like that. I don't like it when they write at a level way up here so that an ordinary person can't even understand. That's why I wrote King, Kingdom, Citizen. I took all this stuff and all these scholarly articles, and I made it so that anyone can understand it. Now, can you use my book as a resource to teach? No, you can use my book as a research to learn things at a very, very basic level. And then if you go to my resources, I give you a ton, and you can go to them. If you want to start becoming an expert in something, yeah, absolutely, by all means. I don't believe in writing down to people. I just don't get it. I think that everyone needs to start out at the ground floor with the basics. And it doesn't mean you can't make a very complex argument at the basic level, but you have to do it in a very orderly fashion and not assuming that people already know what the words exegesis and adumbrate and, yeah, things like that mean. Sometimes you don't have to say those words, you just use regular English and people will do just fine. So that was just a little primer. Next week, I haven't decided yet. Next week, I think I'm going to do a class on how not to study because we've really lost our ability to do it, and studying is not easy. It's not. And if you're able to get the answers to your questions in 30 seconds, then you may have the wrong answers. The internet's easy, but anyone can put anything out on it. So anyway, now I'm getting into next week. Let's not go there. Anyway, I'm going to put on some eucalyptus and head out. I found out yesterday that about an acre of my property, I think, probably once I counted it all up, is wild black raspberries. And so that's where I'm heading. Oh. Anyway, you have a wonderful day, and don't get discouraged. Start with these books. If you want to study biblical context, they're all worth your money. None of it's going to be wasted. With the H. Clay Trumbull, you might be pulling out your hair a little bit, but it's good information. It's good information. And like I said with these, this is going to give you a smattering of knowledge on a bunch of different things by credible experts in the field. You don't have to get a college degree in this stuff to be able to know enough to protect yourself from false teachings. May help, may not, but you can do this at home. Moms can do this. Dads can do this after work. You don't have to. But like I've said before, if you're going to teach, and if you want to say such and such is true, then it behooves you to make sure it's true. Or else we're potentially leading people astray, and none of us really want that. It's not worth it. Anyway, y'all have a really, really wonderful day, and I'll see you back later in the week to talk about the fruit of the Spirit of joy, the one I struggle with the most. Anyway, you have a wonderful day.